You are Locked On Wolves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
T-Wolves survive a Royal Rumble tonight, Jack. 7 players and coaches ejected. They find a way to hold on, though, versus Detroit. A final score, 123-104. What's going on? Back in the lab, back at it. Another T-Wolves Postcast episode right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. Your team every day. Jack Borman with me, as always. Give him a follow on X, at JRBorman13. Jack, just off the jump, has anyone on Twitter came up with, like, a cool nickname yet for that brawl? Like, the bender at the center? And also part 2, how much did DDV just become a fan favorite for everybody here in Minnesota after tonight?
That guy is good in Minnesota forever. Just everything that he did in this game, going at Isaiah Stewart, talking his ish, backing it up, standing up for Naz Reid, throwing 5 guys off of Naz Reid at the bottom of that pile. All the stills, he got the art but make it sports treatment tonight. Just you couldn't ask for anything more for a little Sunday night smackdown in downtown Minneapolis.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. Can't wait to break it all down, including tonight's game MVP, the biggest turning point. Remember, the Wolves were down 14. They end up winning 19. We'll talk about how that happened. Plus the Wolves playoff picture now. 7 games left. That's it. But first, quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by Gametime. Gametime, download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. All right, so I personally, we were just chatting before we went live, I think this should go down as at least the most memorable game of the Wolves thus far to this point in my eyes, Jack. Down 14, second quarter. Here comes the Minnesota malice at the palace. 7 players and coaches ejected, including Naz Reid and DDV. A 48-minute delay, 48-minute second quarter, right? Here comes the Wolves, though. Anthony Edwards, 20 points in the third quarter alone. Fantastic defense in the third quarter. Rudy Gobert, a season high, 25 boards and 19 points. And again, we'll break it all down, but the Wolves complete the comeback. They go from down 14 to winning this thing by 19, 123-104. 11 games above 500, 43-32 now. Big picture, Jack. Again, was that the game of the year so far? Down 14, an all-out brawl occurs. You lose 2 of your better players. You end up winning by 19. What's a win like that say about the Wolves as far as resiliency? Target Center was about to explode, by the way, tonight, but also the kind of momentum a team can rally around after a game like this with 7 games left in the regular season.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, to be down 10 or 9 when that fight happened, and then to win the final 32 minutes and change by 28 points, and just put the beat down on a Pistons team was super important. And I think we saw it a few weeks ago against the Pacers when Rudy Gobert got ejected, and you would have, or I'm sure he would have been hoping that that could have had a similar impact on the game that what Dante and Naz getting thrown out of the game tonight did. And ironically, he was the one that really, kind of held down the fort for the entirety after that. But yeah, I think it can give the Timberwolves a lot of confidence, just considering that, this is a team that hasn't necessarily played with the most fire over the last, really the last 2.5 weeks here. And I think, even when they've won some of these games, they just haven't been super inspiring. But I think this is certainly an effort that can be huge for the Wolves going forward, especially considering that you got to keep pace with the Golden State team that's playing with a lot of swagger and is absolutely rolling right now. And the Clippers have been playing super well, especially with Norman Powell back. I know they lost tonight to Cleveland, so it was a really important win there for the Wolves. But yeah, I just think too, like the way this game started, I mean, Malik Beasley back in Minnesota doing what he does in Minnesota, shooting like crazy on a parade of homes around the Target Center, talking trash to everybody, and then pretty much went scoreless for the last 2.5 quarters. I think that was also really important that the Wolves were able to just kind of shut a guy's water off after he really had it going and was making a mockery of the Target Center with the way he was talking trash to everybody, egging on the crowd. I think, to respond not only to that, but then to the Dante and Isaiah Stewart kind of back and forth that had been going on. I just thought that you see a Timberwolves team now, if they go on a little bit of a run here, and then maybe carry that into whether it's the play-in tournament or the first round of the playoffs, with just kind of a different type of swagger and confidence and energy, and Dante DiVincenzo could, is at the center of it moving forward. I think that's going to be, definitely something that we look back to, considering that the Timberwolves, a lot of times Dante and Naz Reid have bailed the Wolves out a lot. Right. Right. And it was cool to see everyone else respond. And one other quick, storyline that I think will be important to follow. Ant got his 17th technical tonight. He had gone 13 games in a row without getting a tech, which was really important. Came as a result of a horrible call against Mike Conley. Mm-hmm. So if Ant picks up one more tech in any of the final 7 games, he gets a 1-game suspension. And then, this every other technical foul as a suspension deal is over at the end of the regular season, and that ticker kind of resets at the start of the playoffs. But the NBA generally rescinds technical fouls if the officials, miss a pretty egregious call. And it didn't look like Ant was saying a whole lot of crazy stuff to the ref and was being super demonstrative about it. So it would not surprise me one bit if the NBA rescinded that technical, but that'll be kind of something to monitor in the morning.
Yeah, 100%. Again, 7 games left. He's just gotta hold out 7 more games. Put some duct tape on that mouth. Do whatever you got to do. I'm just looking at the box score here. Julius Randle leads the team, 26 points, 8 boards, 5 assists. Rudy, again, 25 boards, 10 offensive rebounds, 19 points. Ant, 25 points just behind Julius. Again, 20 points, though, in the third quarter. I cannot wait to hear who your MVP is today.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
All right, Jack. Tonight's game MVP. Who was it and why? Lay it on us.
As much as I want to give it to Dante DiVincenzo, because he had me like, I was not at Target Center tonight. I've been dealing with a bunch of migraines the last 10 days, 2 weeks or so. Had me up out of my chair, just like in a defensive stance, just clapping at the TV.
So good.
Because of what he was doing. But I know that, we're going to give plenty of love to both these guys, but I got to give it to Julius Randle. And the reason why I got to give it to Julius Randle is because, he and Ant and Jaden got off to a particularly horrible start to this game. All 3 of them in the first quarter were awful. And Naz and Dante kind of flipped the script when those 2 guys came into the game. And then those 2 guys go down really before any of Ant, Jaden, or Julius get a rhythm. And this game just got super physical. And the Timberwolves really needed, really all 3 of those guys to answer the call. But Julius Randle certainly stepped up and answered the call, especially in that second quarter. I mean, he had 13 points in that second quarter. He had 7 points at the free throw line. And when the game got more physical, he just kind of looked more comfortable and felt right at home. And the way that Julius Randle was able to play super aggressively and super physically, but yet do it in a really composed manner, I think was really important. Because I think, that can kind of be a double-edged sword, right? Where you can kind of get out of control and then, you have these misses and Detroit's running up the floor the other way. But that didn't really happen tonight. I just thought the way that he was just relentless, the way that he was attacking downhill and just kind of wearing on the interior of the Pistons defense, especially one that was thin after Isaiah Stewart got ejected. I mean, that Duren-Stewart combo is a pretty darn good one inside for Detroit. And then, Randle was important in helping get Jalen Duren in foul trouble, and that really softened up the interior of the defense. But again, I think for Julius Randle, the reason why he gets this over Rudy Gobert was because I think that Julius Randle playing as well as he did in that second quarter really just bought time for Ant and Jaden McDaniels to kind of get it going and come join him. And I think that Julius really kind of helped keep the Wolves in the game in that second quarter.
They needed somebody to keep them afloat there for a second. Yes.
Yeah. And I think, a lot, I mean, we talked about it last year. Like, I think a great example is Karl Anthony Towns in Game 7 in Denver last year, of just like a guy that's got to buy the team time to kind of catch up to him and play as well as he is. And that's certainly what happened last year in that game. And this kind of reminded me of that, in that, he was really the only guy that had it going for most of the game. And then, obviously some of his other teammates really, deserve praise for the way that they kind of caught up to him. And we'll get into Rudy Gobert, right now. I mean, I think Rudy kind of, matched Julius right there. Rudy had 19 points, 25 boards, 15 defensive rebounds, 10 offensive rebounds. It is the most rebounds in a game for the Wolves since I believe Karl Anthony Towns had 20, I think he had 27 in what is it here? In 2019, he had 27 rebounds. Yeah. It is the most in Rudy Gobert's Timberwolves career. Only the second time, like I said, since 2010 that a Wolf has had at least 25 rebounds. That's courtesy of StatHead. And that game for Kevin Love back in 2010, that was his 31-31 game, which Timberwolves lore. But for Rudy,
where were you game? Yep,
exactly. I was probably in middle school at that point.
Sounds about right.
But for Rudy Gobert, he had 8 field goals. 7 of them, I believe, were dunks. And with Rudy Gobert, shout out to the NBA. Their media stats product has gotten a lot better, so we get access to some of these numbers a little bit quicker because it's incredibly difficult to throw together an outline with all these stats to go live right after the game like we do. But the Pistons shot 5 of 18, 27% on shots that Rudy Gobert contested in this game, which is unbelievable. And Detroit shot just 39% from 2. That's 15% below the league average of about 54. And the Timberwolves had a defensive rating of 101 in the minutes that Rudy Gobert was out there. And again, I think, it was something that I talked about after the Timberwolves went on Friday that, it felt like Rudy Gobert really made a point to play with more force in that game. And he certainly did that again tonight. I think we saw he had the first 6 points of this game. All of them were dunks. And then he was going up against a guy in Jalen Duren. And you look at Jalen Duren, he is built like a brick bleep house. I mean, that guy is a physical freak. He can jump out of the gym. He's incredibly strong, can push guys out of the way, move guys out of the way. He's awesome on both backboards. And Rudy Gobert just dominated inside. And that's not an easy matchup to just dominate the way that he did. And then, you obviously talk about what he was able to do, setting screens on the perimeter as well. I think that was a really important part of the third quarter, and helping to get Anthony Edwards off was his screen setting up top was phenomenal to give, guys a runway. And I think, the way that Rudy screens, at least when guys are doubling Anthony Edwards up top, like the Pistons were for a lot of this time, if Rudy Gobert can take out that guy on the screen, all Ant's got to do is beat the big going side to side, and Ant's able to do that quite a lot. And then, you get Rudy Gobert trailing behind the play, and Ant's been a lot better at hitting him in those situations. So I think Rudy Gobert's screen setting was super important. But again, to get 19 points from Rudy Gobert in any game is just awesome. And I think speaks to, not only Rudy's effort on the offensive glass, because, Rudy Gobert did have 9 second chance points in this game, which is awesome. But I think, he just kind of is a canary in the coal mine in a sense when guys are able to find him, when he's able to have 5 made field goals kind of in the flow of the offense is super important. And I think, the Timberwolves really need more of that. And it's a huge kudos to Rudy Gobert for the way that he's been able to just totally set a tone on both ends of the floor these last couple of games.
Such a good breakdown. I already want to rewatch this game. That's where I'm at right now. But plenty more deep dive. I want to get into the biggest turning point of the game. I think you can probably guess what that was. And the catalyst, though, to that stifling third quarter defense. Let's talk about that. It's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by FanDuel. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Right now, FanDuel is giving you a chance at a huge return, $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you hit your first $5 wager. Why I love FanDuel? When you get the hunch in the middle of the game, you can go check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play. all on the same page where you place your bets. Again, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you win your first $5 wager. Go check it all out over at FanDuel.com. Get in on some NBA future action while you're there. 7 games left. Naz Reid, 6th man of the year odds, still sitting at 4-1. It's all sitting up over at FanDuel.com. Again, check it all out over at FanDuel.com and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed if you hit your first $5 wager. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of the NBA.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
Again, down 14 at one point. In comes the Royal Rumble. They're down about 9 or 10. But you tell us, Jack, what was the turning point in the game tonight? Where and when?
Yeah, I mean, and we've talked about the fight a little bit, and obviously, you know, that's a clear, you know, line of demarcation in this game. But I think really the start of the third quarter was also super important for the Timberwolves in this game. I love that Chris Finch got Jaden McDaniels involved right away because he missed most of the first half in foul trouble. You know, picked up his third foul in a pretty tough call, going for a block and a Jalen Duren dunk. So for him to come out and score right away, you know, after a scoreless first half was super important. And then I believe the next bucket after that was Anthony Edwards scoring after Ant had just 3 points or 4 points or something like that. What did he have in the first half? He had, oh, come on. Yeah, Ant just had 5 points in the first half. So to get those two guys involved early on right away was super important. And I think, you know, kind of reactivated those guys in a major way. And that just kind of lit the fuse for Ant. Ant had 20 points in the third quarter. It was his 10th quarter, scoring at least 20 this season. And, you know, Ant was a huge catalyst in that huge run that the Wolves had, you know, in the first pretty much 7 minutes of that third quarter. To get ahead 84-76 at that point. They didn't really look back from there. Ant had 13 of those 28 points, so he pretty much equaled the Pistons over that 7-minute stretch. Also had 3 big rebounds. Julius Randle had 7 points and a huge chase down block in that moment as well. And then Rudy Gobert, you know, also added 4 points. So for those 3 guys to have, you know, 24 of 28 Timberwolves points over a 7-minute stretch was really, really important. And the Timberwolves kind of go ahead.
I was just going to say, can I also just throw an honorable mention, random planet, I put it up on the screen. When Walton picked Luka to come off the bench ice cold, who are we gonna choose to shoot these free throws? Yeah. Give me that guy, Luka, and he comes in and knocks them both down. It was more so.
I don't know if anyone can see this, but Luka Garza was tweeted this meme of like, who, me? When
who me? Yeah, that was incredible.
That was
more
fantastic.
So it wasn't just the 2 points. Sure, I'll take the 2 points, but it was the energy that it lifted into Target Center and the crowd from that point, man. It was just electric after that, man. It was absolutely outstanding. Didn't mean to cut you off. If you got anything more as far as the turning point, keep going.
Yeah, no, but just to go on that, I think that, you know, Chris Finch getting those 2 guys involved right away, I think for Ant just kind of started one of those classic avalanches that we've all come to know and love. And he definitely needed to, because it was one of the worst halves of basketball I think he's played all season long, where he, you know, just really didn't rise to the occasion when the Timberwolves really, really needed him to. And he had that huge dunk in the second quarter, feeding off of what, you know, Randall did. And then again, kind of fed off of Randall's strong play in the third quarter as well to score, you know, like I said, 20 points. He and Randall had 29 points in that third quarter, outscored the Pistons 29-23 by themselves, which was huge. And then also in that stretch, you know, Randall and Gobert, I can't say enough good words about those 2 guys tonight. I mean, those guys also were tremendous on the interior during that stretch as well. The Pistons on that 28-13 Wolves run shot just 4 of 15, but they were 2 of 11 from 2 in that stretch. You know, Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert completely shut off everybody's water at the rim. And then Mike Conley did an excellent job running Malik Beasley around,
Fantastic. Yes.
Not allowing him to get off, you know, if any clean looks from beyond the arc. And then, you know, Jaden McDaniels did an awesome job on Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder is one of the craftiest, you know, low-key, quickest guards. in the league where you don't really, think that he's a guy that can really get past you, but he can, and he's slithery and sneaky. And Jaden totally kept him outside the arc to, really reduced him to an end of clock 3-point shooter. And that was super important as well, because when Dennis Schroeder is able to get into the paint, he can really be impactful. And so the fact that all 4 of those guys really did everything that was required of them, I think was super important. And the Pistons, came into this game, the last 5 games, second offensive rating at 126.3.
Yeah.
And they put up just 104 points tonight, an offensive rating of 109.
Yeah, I don't know who they played the last 5. I'd have to pull it up, but you're right. They're offensively, they have been on fire coming into this game.
And Cade's missed 3 of those games.
They
just beat the Cavaliers without Cade. So, I mean, this is a team that's got plenty of offensive talent to go around. And in that quarter, the Timberwolves held the Pistons to just 32% shooting. So really important quarter for the Wolves. And I think, just again, like we were talking about, the way that Julius Randle kind of bought the Wolves time offensively, Rudy Gobert maintained his excellence defensively, just kind of allowed everyone to catch up in that third quarter. And then those 2 guys, Julius and Rudy, continued to play at the same level they did in that second quarter, which was super important. So, yeah, I think that was kind of the turning point for me. And really good to see Anthony Edwards kind of join the party and be part of that. And then Jaden McDaniels as well. Had 9 points, or excuse me, only had 2 points on 1 of 6 shooting, but had 9 rebounds, 3 assists and 3 stocks. So it was still, he was still impactful in this game despite not scoring. And I think, again, to kind of get everybody back in rhythm. Now, this will be really important moving forward for the Wolves.
That's another part of what's so crazy, especially when you just look at the box score, knowing they were down 14. You lose Naz Reid and DDV. If I tell you you're losing those guys before halftime, middle of the second quarter, and by the way, Jaden McDaniels, he's only going to score 2 points? I mean,
and you don't have TJ Shannon.
And you didn't have TJ Shannon, which was, me, one of the first things I thought of when they lost DDV for sure. But yeah, when you lose those 2 studs, and then Jaden's only giving you 2 points, how did you end up winning by 19? Exactly how you just broke it down there. Couple more minutes left. I want to talk about this Denver game. That's Tuesday night. What we'll be talking about tomorrow morning, and a couple more fun little stats from this game as well. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode also brought to us by BetterHelp. When your schedule gets packed with, could be work projects, whatever it may be, it's so easy to let your priorities start to slip, even when we know what makes us happy. But when you feel like you got no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy, they become more important than ever. If you've been thinking about starting therapy, maybe it's time to give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, and it's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited for your schedule. It's so simple. All you got to do, you fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched up with the licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Go visit BetterHelp.com/lockdown today. You're getting 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockdown. Before we talk about this Denver preview Tuesday night, late one, by the way, 9 p.m. tip, rapid fire, 60 seconds. I know you took a plethora of notes tonight after this one. Give us 2 or 3 other fun, really stats that kind of stood out and stuck out, I guess, tonight for you.
Yeah, Wolves now 18-3 when they score at least 120 points. Mike Conley had his second highest scoring game this season with 17, his most since January 22nd. He was a team high plus 24. I know everyone in the chat is talking about his defense too, which is not something we've talked about super positively a lot this year, but certainly deserved it tonight. And then they dominated on the glass, 15 offensive rebounds for 23 second chance points. And then they won in the paint too, 54 to 44, but before garbage time, which was huge. And then they won 22-10 on the break, which is super important because, Denver, they got coming up on Tuesday night. Denver's a team that's been, absolutely fantastic on the break, really the entirety of the season. They've been top 5 in fast break points differential. They've been the number 1 scoring fast break offense in the league this season. So that's something that they're, really going to have to contend with, again. And then Denver's also really struggled to clean the defensive glass, in the bottom 10 in the league in defensive rebound percentage the last 5 games or so. And Timberwolves, again, 15 offensive rebounds for 23 second chance points, super important. And then winning in the paint. If the Timberwolves can score in the paint, against a team like Detroit, they'll certainly be able to do it against a team like Denver who has really struggled all year to defend points in the paint. And that's an area where the Wolves have just dominated the Nuggets this season, scoring at will and just kind of beaten up on Denver for the majority of this season in their matchups. So no, that'll be something that's super important as the Timberwolves, take on a Nuggets team that they have now beaten 5 times in a row.
At least 4. Yeah, it could be 5.
Going back to the series last year.
Can you talk to me about this 5-game road trip that starts in Denver? I guess just when you look at the schedule, which teams they're playing, the health of those teams, kind of just the overall momentum of those teams, and then any worry, I guess, for a possible hangover game after such an emotional, physical game tonight, when every game now, Jack, is magnified now so much more with just 7 games to play.
Yeah, I think that it's honestly a good thing that the Wolves are playing a really good opponent in the Nuggets, and one that they always get up for.
Good point. That could be a good point. Yeah.
Because, if they were playing a team like Brooklyn, who they play really weird road trip for the Wolves here, but they play Brooklyn on Thursday, and Brooklyn's tanking really aggressively right now. And, you play that game, they've got enough offensive talent, or who knows? But, I think you certainly worry about that first game against Denver. They got to get that one. Who knows which versions of Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic, and Aaron Gordon we're going to get, because those guys have all missed time lately, especially Nikola Jokic and Aaron Gordon. So we'll see what happens there. I believe Julian Strother is still out with that knee sprain, and Christian Brown has also been in and out of the lineup with a little foot injury. So it'll be interesting. But considering that the Wolves are just trying to keep pace with Golden State and hang in there, and then maybe make a run on Memphis. We talked about, last show that Memphis fired their coach, Taylor Jenkins, on a really unprecedented part of the season. They play in Memphis on Thursday, April 10th to close out that 5-game road trip. And they've got 2 tanking teams in there in Brooklyn and Philadelphia. And then, they've got Milwaukee. And a note too that kind of flew under the radar, but Damian Lillard is probably not going to play in this game because he's got a blood clot in his calf.
That's right.
And so he's out for an extended period of time. I'd be shocked if he came back before that because I've actually had the same type of blood clot that Damian Lillard has right now.
Wow.
And he's going to be on a blood thinner for a while. So I don't think that he's going to be able to go in that game. It's not exactly something that you can do to make it go away any faster. You just kind of got to play the wait and see game. So hope all the best for Dame moving forward because it's not fun to go through. But so I mean, if they win in Denver, I mean you very well could make an argument that this Timberwolves team could go 5-0 on this road trip. I'm not saying they're going to, but if the Timberwolves want to stay out of the play-in line, I think they got to go 4-1, and then you close the season versus Brooklyn, versus Utah, 2 games that you absolutely should win, both games at Target Center. So if you can go, 7-1, 6-2 down the rest of the season, who knows if that's going to be good enough for them to, to stay out of that, that play-in line, just because, you look at Golden State's schedule, the next 4-5 games, they play at Memphis, at the Lakers, at home versus the Nuggets, at home versus the Rockets, and at the Suns. So, and then they close the season against the Clippers. So that's one game where, the Wolves will, make up half a game, hopefully either way, because either the Clippers are going to lose or either the Warriors are going to lose. So we'll see what happens. But super important road trip coming up for the Wolves.
This is what you'll be talking about.
Last one here, Jack, then we got to get out of here. What's the water cooler talk tomorrow at work after this one, just given the way everything went down? What are people texting in the Wolves group chats tonight?
Thank God for Donte DiVincenzo, man. Okay. I think that, he's endeared himself to Timberwolves fans really for the majority of the season after getting over that slow start. And I think tonight's game was super exemplary of all the reasons why Timberwolves fans love Donte DiVincenzo, and that the early part of this game, no other Timberwolves player can make a 3. What does he do? He comes in the game, makes 2 threes, makes a ton of great passes, hit-ahead passes in transition. He's super competitive on the glass on both the offensive end and the defensive end. Gets up, makes a crazy block, putting his body on the line. Has another play where he strips Ron Holland going up that results in 2 points going the other way. I mean, it's just a guy who is willing to do all the dirty work and is a perfect fit in what not only Chris Finch wants to do offensively, but in terms of the makeup and identity of this team, which we all know has been on the defensive end of the floor for the last several seasons. It's been super competitive and has done all the things you've asked for him. And then, you just love the way that he talks his trash and backs it up, is willing to mix it up with everybody. And then some guy, a rookie, tries to come at Naz Reid, or a second-year player tries to come at Naz Reid. What does he do? Steps in there and says, absolutely not on my watch. And I think teammates absolutely love guys like that, and fans love guys like that. And it would be an embarrassment to the NBA, I think, if they suspended Donte DiVincenzo for what happened. I thought that the way that boiled over was crazy. I thought that it wasn't really Dante's fault for the way that it got pushed into the crowd. But it would be an absolute shame if the NBA issued any suspensions for what happened in that game. But who knows? Because if they're down Donte DiVincenzo and or Naz Reid for that game in Denver, it becomes a very different ball game. But yeah, either way, I think Timberwolves fans are loving what they're seeing from Donte DiVincenzo, and his extremely high Q score somehow got even higher after a KO performance in the second quarter at Target Center tonight.
Hang his jersey in the rafters tomorrow morning. Okay, that's the petition I'm starting.
I'd support it.
Yeah. Well, who wouldn't? Seriously, who wouldn't at this point? T-Wolves survived just an absolute melee tonight. Naz Reid, DDV ejected, and they pull out one of the best wins, at least most entertaining wins of the season thus far. Again, 123-104 versus Detroit, 43-32 on the year. Half game back from that 6th seed now, which Golden State currently owns. As always, though, huge shout out to all you guys, all the everydayers out there that always make us your first listen. All you guys coming in the chat with us from game to game. We have so much fun with you guys. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Go follow Jack, too, on X, at Borman13, usually live from the Target Center. More games than not. Again, Nuggets, that's Tuesday. TNT game, 9 p.m. tip. We'll catch you right here, same time, same place. But until then, signing out.